The knocking started under the floorboards at exactly 2:13 a.m. 3 slow knocks. Then silence. Then another 3. I froze in bed, staring at the ceiling while the sound echoed through my apartment. The basement was directly below my room, but nobody had used it in years. My landlord always kept it locked. He once told me the pipes down there made strange noises at night. But pipes don't knock back. I grabbed my phone and checked the time again. 2:14 a.m. The knocking stopped completely. That should have been the end of it. But then my bedroom floor creaked, not beside me, under me, like someone was standing directly beneath my bed. I lived alone in a small apartment building in Ohio. Only 4 units. Old place. Cheap rent. Most tenants kept to themselves. The basement was shared storage, but nobody really went down there because it smelled like mold and wet concrete. The next morning, I asked the landlord if someone had been in the basement. He looked confused. "Basement's been locked all week," he said. Then he paused. "You heard something?" I laughed it off, but his face changed slightly. Like he already knew. That night, I stayed awake on purpose. At 2:13 a.m., the knocking returned. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 more. This time I got out of bed and pressed my ear against the floor. Nothing. Then suddenly bang. Something slammed directly beneath me so hard. My lamp shook. I jumped back. That's when I heard whispering. Very faint. Like someone talking through the vents. I couldn't understand the words, but it sounded desperate. Fast. Panicked. I followed the sound into the hallway. The basement door was near the laundry room downstairs, and it was slightly open. I stopped walking immediately. I knew for a fact it had been locked earlier. Cold air drifted out from the darkness below. I remember staring at the crack in the door, waiting for movement. Then I heard footsteps, slow ones, coming up the basement stairs. I backed away instantly. The footsteps stopped too. Whoever was down there knew I was standing outside. For almost 10 seconds, neither of us moved. Then the basement light clicked on by itself. I saw the bottom half of someone's legs through the crack. Bare feet, dirty, standing completely still. I ran back upstairs and locked myself inside my apartment. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I checked the hallway again. The basement door was locked. I asked my neighbors if anyone had been downstairs. One older woman looked nervous when I mentioned it. She quietly said, "You hear the knocking too?" I stared at her. She told me a tenant disappeared years ago. A man who used to live in my apartment. According to rumors, he spent most of his time in the basement because he thought someone was hiding down there. One night, he vanished. Police searched the building but never found him. After hearing that, I decided to stay somewhere else for a few days. But before leaving, I wanted proof that someone had been inside the basement. So that evening, I waited until the landlord left. Then I stole the basement key from the office drawer. The moment I unlocked the door, the smell hit me. Rotten water. Mold. Something worse underneath. I turned on my flashlight and walked slowly down the stairs. The basement was bigger than I expected. Old storage boxes, broken furniture, pipes running along the ceiling. But something felt wrong immediately. There were fresh footprints in the dust. Bare footprints. In the dust. Bare footprints. I followed them deeper into the basement until I noticed a small wooden door hidden behind shelves. It was cracked open, and I could hear breathing inside. Not normal breathing. Wet breathing. Wet breathing. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. Inside was a tiny room, barely big enough to stand in. The walls were covered with scratches, deep ones, and in the corner sat a man. At least I thought it was a man. His skin looked gray. His beard was tangled and long. His eyes reflected my flashlight instantly. He smiled the moment he saw me. Then he whispered, "You finally came back." My stomach dropped. He slowly stood up. I noticed chains attached to the wall behind him. Broken chains. That's when I realized something horrifying. He wasn't trapped down there anymore. I ran. The footsteps exploded behind me immediately, fast. Bare feet slamming against concrete. I reached the basement stairs and nearly slipped climbing them. Then I heard his voice right behind me. "Don't lock me down there again." I slammed the basement door shut and locked it with shaking hands. The banging started instantly from the other side. Heavy, violent. The entire door shook. I ran outside and called the police. when officers searched the basement later that night. They found nothing. No hidden room, no chains, no footprints. Nothing except old storage boxes. The landlord acted, confused the entire time. But before the police left, one officer pulled me aside quietly. He asked me something strange. Did he say the same thing to you too? I asked what he meant. The officer looked pale. Then he said, the missing tenant called 911 before disappearing. He claimed there was a man living in the basement. I asked what happened to him. The officer stared at the basement door for a second. Then he said softly, nobody ever found his body. I moved out 2 days later. But sometimes, around 2:13 a.m., I still wake up hearing 3 knocks under my bed. And last week, I heard whispering through my apartment vent, don't leave me alone down here. The basement light turned on by itself the night my brother disappeared. I remember because the bulb down there had been dead for months. My parents were asleep upstairs when I noticed the light glowing beneath the basement door. At first, I thought my brother Jake was messing with me again, but then I heard him scream. Not loud, just one short scream, like something cut it off suddenly. I ran downstairs immediately. The basement door was open halfway, and cold air poured out from the darkness below. The light flickered constantly, making shadows move across the stairs. Jake, I called. No answer. I should have gone upstairs and gotten my parents. Instead, I walked down alone. The basement smelled strange. Wet dirt, rust, something rotten underneath. Jake's phone was lying on the floor near the stairs. The screen was cracked, and there were muddy footprints leading deeper into the basement. At first, I thought someone had broken into the house. But something was wrong with the footprints. They looked human, except the toes were too long. I followed them toward the furnace room. While my hands shook so badly, I nearly dropped my flashlight. That's when I heard Jake whisper, "Help me." His voice sounded weak, far away. I rushed toward the sound. But when I opened the furnace room door, nobody was there, only darkness. Then the whisper came again, behind me, "Help me." I spun around so fast I almost fell. Nothing. The basement suddenly felt much bigger than before, like the walls had moved farther apart. I ran upstairs and woke my parents. We searched the entire house together, but Jake was gone. Police arrived 20 minutes later. No signs of forced entry, no open windows, no evidence he ever left the house. But they did find something strange in the basement. A second set of footprints, bare feet, very large, leading into the wall behind the furnace. The officers assumed it was water damage making weird patterns, but I knew what I saw. After that night, my parents refused to let anyone go into the basement alone. Jake was officially declared missing 6 months later, but weird things started happening almost immediately. Every night around midnight, footsteps echoed downstairs. Slow pacing sounds. Sometimes we heard whispering through the vents, sometimes scratching inside the walls. My dad eventually sealed T. The basement door shut with boards. That lasted 3 days. On the 4th morning, the boards were ripped off from the inside. Deep scratch marks covered the wood. That's when my mom finally admitted something she'd hidden from us. Years earlier, before we bought the house, another child disappeared there. A little girl, vanished without explanation. Her parents moved away after claiming they heard voices coming from the basement walls. My dad didn't believe in ghosts or monsters until the night he saw Jake standing downstairs. I woke up around 1 a.m. Hearing my father yell, I ran into the hallway and found him frozen near the basement door. He pointed downstairs without speaking. The basement light was on again, and someone was standing at the bottom of the stairs. It looked exactly like Jake. Same clothes, same height, but something was wrong with his face. His smile stretched too wide, way too wide. My father whispered, "That's not him." The thing downstairs slowly tilted its head. Then it spoke in Jake's voice. "Dad, come downstairs." I will never forget the sound of that voice. It sounded layered, like multiple people speaking at once underneath him. My father slammed the basement door shut immediately. Something hit the other side hard enough to shake the walls. Then came the scratching, fast scratching, like nails digging through wood. We heard Jake laughing downstairs for almost an hour. After that night, my parents sent me to stay with relatives. But my dad stayed behind, trying to figure out what happened. 3 weeks later, he disappeared too. Police found the house empty, basement door wide open, mud covering the stairs. And my dad's wedding ring, lying near the furnace room. Nobody moved back into that house after. Years passed before I returned. I was 26 when I finally went back. The house was abandoned, windows broken, yard overgrown, but the basement door was still there. Part of me wanted answers. Part of me knew I should leave. Still, I went downstairs. The air felt freezing cold immediately. My flashlight barely worked. Then I noticed something on the wall behind the furnace, a narrow opening. I swear it hadn't been there before. Inside was a tunnel, a deep dirt tunnel leading underground, and from somewhere far below, I heard my brother's voice, crying, "Please help me." I.S. Tude were frozen for several seconds. Then another voice whispered from deeper in the darkness, a voice that sounded exactly like my father. "Don't listen to him." That's when I realized something horrible. The crying suddenly stopped. Complete silence. Then footsteps started rushing toward me from inside the tunnel. Fast, too fast. I ran upstairs without looking back. But just before I reached the basement door, I heard Jake's voice directly behind me. Calm this time, right beside my ear. "You left us down there." I never went back again. But every few months, I received strange voicemails from unknown numbers. Static, heavy breathing. And sometimes, very quietly, my brother is asking me to come downstairs. I found the hidden basement by accident. The worst part is, I don't think it was hidden from me. I think it was hiding something else. I had just moved into an old rental house in Pennsylvania after getting a cheap deal online. The owner barely asked questions. Cash only, no neighbors close by. At first, the place seemed normal. Small kitchen, old carpet, creaky stairs. But the first night, I heard movement under the house. Not rats. Footsteps. Slow footsteps circling beneath the floor. I assumed there was some crawl space under the property, so the next morning I searched the house looking for an entrance. That's when I found the locked door in the hallway closet. It blended into the wall so perfectly, I almost missed it. No handle on the outside. Just scratches around the edges. Deep scratches. I called the landlord and asked about it. Long silence. Then he said, "Don't open that door." I laughed, thinking he was joking. He didn't laugh back. "Seriously," he said, "leave it alone." Then he hung up. That should have warned me enough. But over the next few days, things got worse. Every night around 3 a.m., the footsteps returned. Sometimes I heard whispering under. There the floorboards. Sometimes knocking inside the walls. And once, I woke up hearing someone breathing beside my bed. I turned on the lamp instantly. Nobody there, but my bedroom door was open. I always locked it before sleeping. I started putting heavy boxes in front of the closet door downstairs because I couldn't stop staring at it. Something about it felt wrong, like someone was standing behind it listening. Then one night, I noticed the boxes had moved, not fallen over, moved, carefully. The door behind them was slightly open. Cold air drifted out through the crack. I felt sick immediately. I remember standing there, staring into the darkness for almost a full minute. Then I heard a voice from below, very soft. "Can you help me?" It sounded like a woman crying. I grabbed a flashlight and slowly opened the door wider. A staircase led underground. The smell coming from below was horrible. Rotting wood, wet dirt, decay. Halfway down the stairs, I noticed something carved into the walls. Names. Dozens of names scratched into the wood. Some crossed out, some fresh. Then I found dates beside them. Years of dates. Going back decades. That's when I should have left. But I kept going. At the bottom was a massive basement stretching farther than it should have. Concrete walls, hanging pipes, old furniture covered with sheets. And at the center of the room sat a chair facing away from me. Someone was sitting in it. I froze instantly. The person looked incredibly thin, motionless. I whispered, "Hello." The chair slowly turned toward me by itself. Nobody was sitting there. Then the whisper came again. Behind me. Behind me. Thank you for opening it. I spun around. A woman stood at the bottom of the stairs, or at least she looked like a woman. Her skin looked pale gray, her eyes completely black, and her mouth, something was wrong with her mouth. It stretched too far when she smiled. Asa, I backed away slowly, while she stared at me without blinking. Then she asked something that made my blood run cold. Did he tell you not to come down here too? Suddenly, every pipe in the basement started banging loudly. The lights overhead flickered violently, and from the darkness beyond the furniture, people started moving, shapes, dozens of them, standing silently in the dark. I ran toward the stairs immediately, but the woman moved. Impossibly fast. 1 second she was across the room. The next second she was right beside me. She was right beside me. She whispered directly into my ear. You opened the door again. I shoved past her and sprinted upstairs. The moment I slammed the basement door shut, something massive hit it from below. The entire wall shook. Then came screaming. Not one voice. Any voices. Crying. Begging. Laughing. I pushed furniture against the door and locked myself inside the bathroom until sunrise. The next morning, I packed everything to leave. Before driving away, I called the landlord demanding answers. His voice sounded exhausted. Finally, he admitted the truth. Years ago, the original owner kept people trapped in that basement. Nobody knows how many. After he died, new tenants kept reporting voices and disappearances. Some claimed the basement changed shape. Others claimed they saw people who weren't human anymore. I asked why he still rented the house. He still rented the house. He stayed silent for several seconds. Then he said quietly, because if nobody lives there, they come upstairs. I left immediately, but here's the part that still terrifies me. 3 months after moving out, I received a package with no return address. Inside was a single photograph. It showed the basement chair, facing the camera this time. And sitting in it was me, smiling with my mouth stretched too wide.